You know, if I've said it once this year so far on the show, I've said it 100 times. And I've said that to expect the unexpected this year in college football. A lot of parity, a lot of, not unrest, but you know, you get what I'm talking about here, where anything can happen on a week-to-week basis. And I think over the last few years, we've seen that kind of take shape, I guess, if you will, with the transfer portal, with NIL, with everything. It's just kind of essentially leveled the playing field a little bit, and it's brought a lot of the teams, some of the teams at the top, it's brought them closer to the teams, kind of that mid-tier-ish team. And we see a team like, perfect example of that this past weekend on Friday night, we saw a team like Louisville beat Miami 24-21. We've seen teams like Arizona State beat a Texas Tech that a lot of people thought was unbeatable. We'll talk about that more in, just a few minutes. But the transfer portal has made teams that were once not very competitive, or maybe they were competitive, but they weren't competitive at the level they are now. And we've seen now like a team like Vanderbilt, who we would have never thought Vanderbilt would beat LSU. Here we are. It's 2025. And so first off, the first thing I would like to jump into, for one, just hit the news this morning, just hit kind of the news cycle today, actually, not this morning, is the firing of Florida head coach Billy Napier. And if you call yourself a ball knower and you call yourself, someone who watches college football and, really pays close attention, you kind of knew this was coming. I mean, we saw over the last few weeks, we have seen a Florida team that has just not met expectations. And these were expectations that everyone had for this Florida team at the start of the season, that, with DJ Lagway coming back with this team, with the talent that they have, with Jaden Baugh at the running back position, with Dallas Wilson, we saw a team that had a lot of potential. I mean, this was a team that was kind of it was a dark horse pick for a lot of people to make the college football playoff. Not me, but we saw that from a lot of people that said this Florida team could backdoor their way into the playoff, maybe could compete for that SEC championship in December. That's out of the question. That's off the table. The cards are off the table at this point. Billy Napier's been fired as of today. It is Sunday, October 19th, and he has been fired and terminated. So the question here is, where do you go from here if you're Florida? We just had the same discussion about James Franklin on the previous, Monday wrap-up episode. And I think the question remains the same. It doesn't, rephrase that. It doesn't remain the same. James Franklin, proven winner at Penn State. He's having one bad year. But on top of that, one of the winningest coaches in college football over the last 5 or 6 years is James Franklin. Penn State's willing to make a move on from James Franklin, and he's not a bad football coach. There's a lot of fan bases out there, Florida Gators fans included, that would kill to win 9 or 10 games a year, every year, and be guaranteed to win 9 or 10 games a year. And we saw what James Franklin was able to do at Penn State, and you got to think, Penn State's playing teams like Ohio State every year. Ohio State, you got Michigan, you got teams like Oregon. Now, USC's kind of turned the corner a little bit since they've got into the Big Ten, and they are, in a sense, a little bit better than they were. They just got smoked by Notre Dame this past weekend, but they're looking better. They look like they are on the upswing, so to speak. And you look at what he was able to do, and the criticism of he can't get over the hump, he can't win the big game, he can't do this, it's definitely justified. Don't get me wrong, because I'm the first in line to criticize a head coach when he can't get the job done and he can't win. He can't win the big one, so to speak. So I'm first in line to say things like that. But you look at a fan base like the Florida Gators fan base, and the amount of just crap that they've had to suffer over the last few years at the expense of a coach that, let's be honest, in over his head. I mean, can we all agree on that, Florida Gator fan or not? Can we all agree on the fact that Billy Napier was in over his head from the jump? But here's the thing with comparing these two coaches, and I've seen some people say that, I'm a Gator fan and I want James Franklin in Gainesville. And I had somebody say they didn't want him in Gainesville, and I responded back to that with, why not? I mean, I think it's a question that we really need to talk about there, because why would you not want James Franklin if you're in Gainesville? If you're a Florida fan, why would you not want James Franklin? He's an elite recruiter. He's going to bring in the right guys. And Penn State, he has one bad season and they're kicking him to the curb. I think Penn State made a huge mistake getting rid of him as early as they did. I think if anything, you let the season play out and you see where he's at the end of the season, then you make your move. Regardless, the thing, they feel like it had run its course, so to speak. So he's out. Billy Napier's out at Florida, which we knew this was coming. So, that's really the big news item for this weekend coming off. And we heard the rumblings, the latter half of last week, we heard people saying that, Billy Napier was going to be ousted regardless if they won or lost against Mississippi State. He was pretty much a dead man walking. He was done. And some of the comments that was made in the press conference by Billy Napier post-game, I wonder if he knew. I wonder if he knew that was his last game coaching at the University of Florida. You never know. But either way, $21 million richer, Billy Napier. Hats off to you. Florida's got to look for a new coach going into the bye week. Got world's largest outdoor cocktail party coming up in 2 weeks. Florida's going to have to look for an interim guy for the time being, and the coaching search is underway in Gainesville. And let me just say one thing. And I said this on Facebook about the Florida job. I said if I fire Billy Napier from Florida, from University of Florida, and I fire Billy Napier, I think there's 2 phone calls I'm making. And, I think I'm picking up the phone, and call number 1 is to James Franklin right now, the way I look at it. Call number 2 is Kyle Whittingham at Utah. Yeah, I know he just lost to BYU this past weekend, but come on. Guy's a heck of a football coach. I think in the SEC, I think we'd do really good. The pipe dream that is Lane Kiffin to Gainesville, stop it. I don't see it. Now, is it possible? Could it happen? Yes. I'm not saying I'm not saying it's impossible, because that's a ridiculous thing to say. Anything's possible. But I just don't see the point, I guess, is the best way to put it. I don't see the reason why Lane Kiffin would leave Oxford to go to Gainesville. And everybody's like, oh, money, resources. But look at what he had. Look at what he'd have to put up with. I don't know. I think Ole Miss to Florida at this stage, 2025, and it's crazy to think this because 10 years ago this wasn't the same, but today's day and age, 2025, year of our Lord, Ole Miss to Florida is a major downgrade. Ooh, I know, hot take. Let's jump on Colby here and talk about. Let's try to convince him how Florida's a better job than Ole Miss. Right now, it's not. Right now, in this very present moment, it is not. Ole Miss is the better job. Who made it that way? Lane Kiffin, yes, but resources at his disposal, everything. Fan base that adores him. And the thing about it is the expectations are lower at Ole Miss than they are at Florida. And let's be honest, and I'm going to jump on you Florida fans for just a minute if y'all don't mind, if you'll indulge me. Let's stop pretending like Florida is just some perennial powerhouse that's been around since the beginning of time and they're used to consistently winning. You won 2 national championships because you had a freak athlete at quarterback And nobody knew that the University of Florida existed in football until the 90s. And maybe a little bit of a spell back in the 60s when a guy named Steve Spurrier was the quarterback. And we're just some blue blood program that any coach in America would want to come coach at when given the opportunity. Get out. Like, ridiculous. Stop it. That's not the case. It's never been the case. So the arrogance that is the Florida fans thinking that, oh, we're going to call Lane Kiffin. He's totally going to come because we're Florida. You're not what you were when Tebow was there. You're not as appealing. I mean, you got a fan base that publicly just drags their coach. The expectations are way higher than they need to be. I mean, let's be honest. If over the past few years you expected Florida to do anything better than what they have, you just aren't paying attention. I remember saying this year they were a sneaky team. I feel like looking at their schedule, they had the potential to go 9-3 as their ceiling. But that's a ceiling. I really think this team, looking before the season, I think I was around 7-5. I was at the 7-5 mark. They might make a bowl game at 6-6, but I mean, this is not a 10-11 win team every year, and so you get rid of Billy Napier. Now you're back at square one. Now you got to find the right guy. And let me tell you one thing: you better find the right guy, because this will be the fourth head coach in Gainesville since your arch rival's head coach took over. Kirby Smart's been in Athens 10 years. Florida's had 4 head coaches in that time. So you're picking a head coach, you're picking a new head coach. It better be the right one at this point. Because at this point, you're just getting a guy in there and you're, trying him out for a few years and then buyout money and everything, and now you're just pissing money away. So, moving on. New AP poll top 25 is released today. We're going to start at number 25. We're going to count down to 1. We're going to go Michigan at 25, Arizona State at 24, Illinois 23, Texas 22, Cincinnati 21. LSU drops back to 20th after the loss to Vanderbilt. Louisville goes to 19th, USF at 18, Tennessee 17, Virginia 16, Missouri 15, Texas Tech 14, Ole Miss 13, Notre Dame 12, BYU 11, Vanderbilt 10. How about that? Vanderbilt ranked in the AP top 10 for the first time since, I believe I saw a thing earlier, it's 1941. First time since 1941, Vanderbilt in the top 10. Miami at 9, Ole Miss at 8, Georgia Tech 7, Oregon 6, Georgia 5, Bama 4, A&M 3, Indiana 2, Ohio State 1. A couple things that jump out to me, and then we'll get into the recap of the football games from this past weekend. A couple things that jump out to me. And I'm going to be honest here. I'm in one of those moods. I do not understand why, after watching that LSU football team this past Saturday against Vanderbilt, I do not understand why they're still ranked. I really don't. 20th, I think get them out of there. Find somebody else. And then another one to me too is Texas A&M at 3. Are we just ranking Texas A&M there because they're undefeated and we feel like we have to? Or are we ranking them there because we think that they're better than Alabama, Georgia, Oregon? Let's just use those 3 teams as an example. I just haven't seen anything out of Texas A&M that impresses me. And I mean, call me crazy, whatever. Cassius Howell's a monster on that defensive line. Yeah, great. Marcel Reed, good. Reuben Owens, good. Mario Craver, yeah. I mean, I think they're talented. But they just gave up 42 points to Arkansas on Saturday. I just don't know. It's not that I think they're terrible. It's not that I think Texas A&M sucks. I'm just saying I don't know what to think about them right now. I really just don't. We've got some games coming up that'll really kind of, separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. But when I watched that game this past Saturday, I don't know. I mean, Arkansas, put up a heck of a fight. Had their chances, to win it. I mean, they outscored Texas A&M 15-7 in the fourth quarter. Tried their best to get it make a comeback, but Taylor Green played a good game. They had a lot of rushing yards. Arkansas ran the football really well against Texas A&M. I just don't understand with the Jekyll and Hyde aspect of this A&M defense every week. It's like one week they look like they've figured it out, and the next week, like against Arkansas, they're giving up 527 total yards. 268 of that on the ground. You don't win football games giving up 8.4 yards a carry. Texas A&M found a way to win it by 3 points. But when you're that vulnerable against the run, you're not going to beat a team like an Alabama. You're not going to beat a team like a Georgia. Georgia runs the football better than Arkansas. So, just saying that. Just throwing that out there. Jumping right back in, though. Jumping in, I want to go in order. We don't want to get on a soapbox. We don't want to kind of, we don't want to backtrack, so to speak. Or not backtrack, but go backwards. We want to go forwards. All right. Friday night, Louisville, Miami. If you watch this game, you watched an absolute pick fest by Carson Beck, which all Georgia fans said we knew it was coming. At some point, we saw it last year. Couple things I wanted, and I'll kind of dive into Carson Beck here in just a few minutes. But in the substance of the game, let's talk about the game itself, and let's talk about the fact that Louisville ran the football down Miami's throat, and not to take anything away from Louisville. I've been very high on Miami. I thought they were a very good team. I still think they're a good team. I think they got a really good defense. I think they're good in the trenches. But, these teams like this, like a Miami, these dominant teams, they're bound to throw a dud every now and then and about to come out and play bad football. I by no means think that Miami is a 9-3 or 8-4 team after this. I think they'll get up off the mat, bounce back in a big way moving forward. And sometimes it takes a game like this to kind of shake you and wake you up. And I feel like that this Miami team could be due for that. They could use it. And, I feel like they could use it as a way to kind of say, hey, we're not as good as we thought we were. We're not as good as, we're not as good as the ESPN's saying we are. So we need to get back in the lab, get back in the gym, work out, get better, and put our noses down and put our heads down and grind. That's where Miami's got to be. But ultimately, though, two things you can't do if you're Miami. You can't allow your opponent to run the football the way Louisville ran the football against them. And time of possession was pretty even. I think Louisville had about two minutes more time of possession than Miami, but the rush yards was the big one. One team committed to it and stuck to it. 31 attempts for 119 yards, about 4 yards a carry, at nearly 4 yards a carry there for Louisville, and Miami with 24 carries and 63 yards. Very tough sledding on the ground for the Miami Hurricanes on Friday night. And the biggest difference in the football game, the glaring thing that you look at when you look at the box score, when you look at the team stats, when you look at whatever you look at, is the 4 interceptions thrown by Carson Beck. And like I said, Georgia fans, we saw Carson Beck do it last year. A few games, we saw multiple interceptions. Saw a lot of it. But the one thing that really rubbed me the wrong way, and I just want to talk about a couple things here for a second and talk about the fact that people have been talking like Georgia fans ran Carson Beck out of Athens, or Carson Beck's teammates ran him out of Athens. They didn't want him there. Whatever. The press conference of Carson Beck after the game is why he's not in Athens anymore. And if you haven't seen it yet, I encourage you to go back and watch it, and go back and watch a quarterback completely throw his tight end under the bus. Like, you get asked that question in a in an interview setting at a press conference. You get asked that question if you're Carson Beck. All you say to that question is you just go, well, we just didn't execute. As a team, we didn't execute, and they were the better team, and we'll get better because of it. You kind of give that vague coach speak type answer, very open-ended, But no, I mean, bro just threw his tight end under the bus, man. We need to run the wrong route, or we need to run the right route. Basically calls his tight end out. We need to run the right route. Well, genius, I didn't see that on that final play. I mean, I saw a ball that you threw that got batted at the line of scrimmage, and, I saw a defensive back that made a heck of a play on the football. I didn't see a tight end running the wrong route, But here's the thing, and I think we see the reason why Carson Beck's not in Athens anymore. Kirby Smart is the type of head coach that demands accountability from his players. Doesn't sound like a guy that's, very accountable. So you put those two together if you want to and make your own assumptions, but I've made mine, and I can go ahead and tell you what I think happened and what I think was going on. But Jeff Brom and that staff, man, hats off to them. They called a heck of a game, beat Miami, big-time win for Louisville, and, big-time little springboard for them moving forward now with one loss in the conference. We're kind of – now Louisville has kind of entered themselves into that conversation. The only lone loss they have on the schedule is to the number 16th ranked team in the country, Virginia, in overtime. So, why not Louisville? When you start to talk about ACC championship coming up, why not them? They surely prove that they can play really good football on Friday night. If they continue to run the football like they ran it Friday night, I mean, I really don't see anybody. I really see Louisville being a problem for a lot of people moving forward. And to look at their schedule looked a lot more daunting, before the season started, or maybe a couple weeks into the season. We saw, oh man, they got some tough games coming down the stretch. But now when you look at it, you got Boston College at home, you got Virginia Tech on the road, Cal at home, Clemson at home, then you got SMU on the road, you got Kentucky at home. Louisville could very well make a run at this ACC championship. So keep an eye on that squad. Likewise, still keep an eye on Miami. I think they're going to be fine, but definitely need to go back to the drawing board on some things and talk about it. So Nebraska, hey, man, it worked out for y'all for 1 week. That's all I'm going to say about it. But, hey, it worked out for y'all for 1 week. You were ranked, and you were 25th for a week, and then you got smoked by Minnesota 24-6. So shout out to all the Nebraska fans out there that were all about, why aren't we ranked? Why aren't we ranked? Why aren't we ranked? Well, now you know. So moving right along. One game I touched on, a little bit earlier, Texas A&M and Arkansas. We're going to touch on that one here for a second because we had some I made some predictions on Thursday on the prediction show. We're going to go through these and kind of analyze where we stood when all the dust settled. And all right, so Louisville, Miami. Clearly, I was way wrong on that score prediction, so we're gonna cross that one out. Good there. So let's go into instead of doing A&M Arkansas, let's go to LSU Vanderbilt. So my score prediction on this one was 20-13. I felt like LSU's defense was going to contain Diego Pavia, and was going to. We've seen LSU play some really good defense this year so far. So there was no cause for us to believe, or there was no reason for us to believe that LSU wouldn't be able to stop Vanderbilt's offense. I had no idea Vanderbilt was going to score 31 points, but I figured it was going to be more of a, 20-13 game where each team's kind of feeling each other out for a couple quarters, and, it's kind of more low-ish scoring. But Vanderbilt was in firm control of this football game really from the jump. I mean, really didn't see a team that flinched, that, really got scared of the moment, or the moment got too big to them, or they got nervous or anything like that. We really didn't see that from Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia. And LSU's just bad. I mean, after this season, I'll put in a request to have this year's LSU team studied, because how in the world, with the talent that they returned, with the big-time help of a quarterback, an experienced quarterback, and Garrett Nussmeier, rather, returning, you got a electric weapon in a guy like Aaron Anderson. You got the defense that you have. It's hard to believe. This was a team that a lot of people had in their top 5 preseason. A lot of people had in their national championship predictions. Said that LSU was going to go all the way, win the SEC, win the national championship. But this team is terrible. I mean, we're LSU fans. I feel for you, because this was supposed to be a really good year for LSU. I mean, we were supposed to see some big things. I mean, I think I had on preseason prediction. I think my preseason prediction on LSU was like 11-1, 10-2 at worst. I think the over and under was set at 10.5 or 9.5 games this year, and I was over for sure, but I just don't know what's going on. And the Tiger faithful are getting restless with their head coach, rightfully so. He hasn't delivered, and it might be another job opening to announce coming soon. I don't know, but I tell you what, if LSU keeps trending in the direction they're trending in, could be. I mean, very well could be. But definitely got to give flowers to Vanderbilt and Clark Lee, that staff, Diego Pavia, a lot of the playmakers there on Vanderbilt's offense, and for me, it's definitely cool to see, because in my lifetime, I'm 32 years old, be 33 next month, Vanderbilt's never been good. And I don't mean that negatively for Vanderbilt fans, if you exist and if you're listening, but they've never been good. Like, from the time I was growing up, till now, really, till just a couple of years ago, Vanderbilt's always been like the doormat of the SEC. It's the thing we're laying out there, by your door before you walk in the house, brush your feet off on it, kick the dirt off. That's been Vanderbilt for the great part of my life, really. Majority has been the punching bag of the SEC. And, I mean, you're talking about teams that won 1 game a year, maybe 2 games a year, consistently. Didn't win anything. And it's just cool to see. And I think it's a testament to the parity that the portal and NIL brings to the game of college football. As a team like Vanderbilt is able to compete because they're able to get these players transfer. I mean, Diego Pavia is a transfer. They're able to get these players in to help them be competitive. And, I think Vanderbilt's going to be kind of a weird, not dark horse team, but, they got some interesting matchups coming up. You got a Missouri contest Missouri comes to Nashville. That's next Saturday. And then you got Texas on the road. And you got Auburn in Nashville. You got Kentucky in Nashville. And then you got Tennessee and Knoxville to close the season, your in-state rivalry game. So Vanderbilt still, long road to climb up. I mean, I've seen some rumblings of people talking online that, Vanderbilt's going to win the SEC or going to compete for it. And I'm just going to say pump the brakes, and not really pump the brakes, but lock them down, squall tires and lock them down, because I don't think that's happening. I think it's a win, though, if Vanderbilt finishes 9-3. I'll just say that. If Vanderbilt finishes this season out 9-3 and inside the top 25, it is a win for that program. It is a win for Clark Lee. Take it as a win. Don't set the expectations way up here, up in the sky, and then when you don't hit them, you're like, what happened? We're terrible, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, set more realistic expectations for this football team. Before the season started, I had them at 5-7. So the fact that 5-7, 6-6, so I mean, really and truly, the fact that they have the opportunity to go 9-3 is insane. I mean, we'll obviously pick the games that they have to play once they get here, but they got a tough road looking forward. But hats off to them, beating LSU 31-24. LSU just doesn't have it this year, a mystery that will remain until the end of time. Third Saturday in October. And Alabama, one of the biggest mysteries in college football this year is how in the heck that this Alabama team lost to Florida State in week 1. I really just, every week that I watch this Alabama football team, I find it so, I don't even know the word, baffling really, that they lost to Florida State in week 1. We see how bad Florida State is. 20-13 lost to Stanford this past weekend. Now they're 3-4. Gross. But we look at this Alabama team, and it's a head scratcher to me. Like, what were y'all doing? I think Alabama, as it sets right now, the way that they're playing, the scout team would beat Florida State. But I don't understand it. It's a mystery. It's going to be a head scratcher for a long time to understand when we go back and look at this and we see that L in the column next to Florida State. When it comes to Bama's schedule for this year, we're gonna look at that 10 years from now and go, how in the heck did that happen? Like, no explanation whatsoever. But Alabama gets it done against Tennessee, third Saturday in October, 37-20. The final in this one, Bama just dominated this football game. I didn't really see Tennessee, gave it their best, but this Alabama team looks much, much improved from their week 1 loss to Florida State. I mean, you've got Ty Simpson, who's been playing as good, if not better than any other quarterback in the country since that week 1 loss. And the receiving core at Bama, Horton, Bernard, Williams, good luck, DBs, good luck. And then on top of that too, you have Jam Miller running the football, Tyler Booker on the offensive line. You've got some really good pieces on that offensive line, Caden Proctor. This team really and truly, to me, is definitely creeping their way into that national championship favorite spot for me personally. Just watching the way that they play football, watching how they've improved, I think as of right now, as it sits, I wouldn't take anyone over Alabama on a neutral field right now in this very moment. That includes Ohio State, that includes Indiana, that includes Texas A&M, it includes everybody. I just think this Alabama team's playing better ball than anybody in the country. And when you look at the way they beat Tennessee, if that's not a testament to it, I don't know what is. And but big win for Kalen DeBoer, black hoodie, still rocking it, still winning. So why would you take it off if you're still rocking the black hoodie and you're still winning? Why would you take it off? If you're superstitious, then it's like I say, I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. He must be superstitious. He's not taking that hoodie off. I wonder if he's washed it. Somebody I asked that during the game the other day. I was texting a friend of mine who's an Alabama fan, and I said, "Do you think he's washed it, or is it a different one? Is it the same one?" And he was like, texting me back. He's like, "The questions that haunt Colby Allen." I was like, "Exactly. I need to know these things. Like, has he washed the hoodie? Like, we need to know. We need to know what the secret sauce is, Caleb. We need to know. Every college football coach in America would like to know what the secret is to the hoodie, for sure." So moving right along, Recapping these games, moving right along, USC Notre Dame, final score ends up being 34-24. Notre Dame over USC. My score prediction was 27-24 Notre Dame, so not too far off from this prediction. Notre Dame kind of got back to Notre Dame football in this contest. And, USC was, we watched them kind of, move their way through the college football season. They beat Michigan, and they beat Michigan as bad as they did. And I feel like a lot of people kind of bought a little bit of stock in USC after that game. And I think it's kind of it's one of those things where we probably shouldn't have put too much stock in USC after that Michigan win, because Michigan's not that good of a football team either. And beating them is not exactly a great accomplishment or a great feat. It's not like you went up against Ohio State and beat them. So, to me, I think we put a little bit too much faith and a little bit too much stock in USC. Not this guy, because remember, I told y'all I'm not going to get fooled again by USC, and here I am, not getting fooled again, so I'm safe. But I told y'all not to. And the reason why is because Notre Dame's just the more physical football team. They're gonna run the football. Jeremiah Love had his kind of big game of the year Saturday, 24 carries, 228 yards, and a touchdown. It's about time that Notre Dame really started to hammer home the fact that Jeremiah Love is going to need to run the football for you in order to be successful. Notre Dame ends the game on 306 yards on the ground. Outrushed USC 306-68. That is how you win football games, Marcus Freeman. That's how you win football games, Notre Dame. You run for 306, your opponent runs for 68, you're going to win that game most of the time, and by most of the time, I mean 9 out of 10 times, because you control the clock. Notre Dame controlled the clock, 33 minutes of time of possession total. So, Notre Dame did what they needed to do to win this football game. Happy the fact that, predicted it right. But I just didn't see – I felt like there was a lot of emotion behind the USC win against Michigan because of the fact of some comments that, Sharon Moore had made earlier in the week about the game and why it was sold out only because Michigan was coming to town. I feel like that little bit of a fire under the players played with a little bit of emotion. They were able to, take that out on the team across from them. But it's a very tough ask for a team that is not historically physical, and they haven't been physical under Lincoln Riley since he's been there in Los Angeles. It's a very tough ask to ask a team that is not physical to be physical 2 weeks in a row. They were physical for the most part against Michigan last week, kind of beat Michigan at their own game in a sense. They got to follow it up and go and play another team. They got to go on the road across the country essentially, play another team that's even more physical than Michigan, in my opinion, and you've got to match their physicality. They couldn't, unfortunately, and Notre Dame takes that one 34-24. So, game of the week this week. And I know we talked about it briefly because of the fact that we were doing a gift card giveaway, and I'm going to address that right now before I get into the recap of Georgia and Ole Miss. So nobody won the gift card. Oh, all disappointed. I get it. But nobody won the gift card. Nobody got the score right. But here's what we're going to do. So we're going to do a rollover on the gift card. And every week, what we're going to do is when nobody wins it on, say, last week, prediction show, Thursday, every Thursday, we're going to pick a game of the week. You're going to guess the score of that game to try to win a gift card to a place of your choice. When you guess the score correctly, I will reach out to you personally in a DM on Facebook or Instagram, whatever social media platform you participate in the competition on. I will reach out to you via DM and I will say, hey, you won. Where would you like your gift card to be to? You can say Chick-fil-A, you can say Starbucks, you can say Advanced Auto Parts, O'Reilly's. I don't give a crap. wherever you want a $20 gift card to, you let me know. I'll make it happen. However, if you pick a final score, or if we have a bunch of people that pick a final score, I think there was like 9 entrances into this competition last weekend, 9 or 10. If you pick the score, you don't get it right, nobody gets it right, we will roll it over into the following week, and we will add $5. So, little suspenseful pause there. Had to make it interesting. So we're going to add $5 to next week's gift card amount, or this week, actually. This week's gift card amount, we will do a prediction show. We will do the game of the week. We will give you a chance to submit your prediction for the game of the week. Get it right. Now the gift card amount is up to $25. Nobody gets it right this week. We do it again next week. The gift card amount is up to, you got it, $30. Math isn't that hard, is it? All right, so moving on into the game of the week, Georgia and Ole Miss. Georgia ends up winning this one 40-35. What a football game, and defense was optional for both teams, because I don't think either team punted until the fourth quarter. It was crazy. It was back and forth. It was one of those games where we're like, whoever has the ball last is going to win this football game. And that's what it felt like for a while. And Georgia's defense finally settled down there in the fourth quarter and got a couple stops and settled in, but it took them 3.5 quarters, or not quite 3.5 quarters, but a little over 3 quarters to settle into the football game defensively and actually start to make some stops. And I mean, I get it. Ole Miss's offense is hard to stop. Lane Kiffin, heck of a play caller, really good play caller. His offenses are notoriously a lot of misdirection, a lot of eye candy. And so, it's a tough ask, but, to get those 2 stops in the fourth quarter for Georgia, very, very timely, stops, big time to let, to get a little bit of a lead, be able to hold it. Because, I think Georgia led 3-0 and then didn't get the lead back until the fourth quarter when they went up. A couple key things I'd like to mention is, one, prayers up for Colby Young, the Georgia wide receiver injured on the first drive of the football game. Turns out it's looking like right now that he has a broken leg. It looks like a fracture in, I can't remember if it's his tibia or fibia, one of the two. Obviously, he's going to be out for the season, so definitely wish that young man thoughts and prayers in his recovery. It's going to be a tough one. It's a tough loss for the UGA squad. Their leading receiver breaks his leg and is out for the remainder of the season, so not good. First thing I'd like to mention there and mention that. Second thing I'd like to mention is the fact that why is, Gunnar Stockton, okay, we saw a very good quarterback duel. And I feel like a lot of people aren't giving it the credit that it deserves. The fact that, Trinidad Chambliss versus Gunnar Stockton actually lived up to the hype. And these two guys, just immensely talented. Trinidad Chambliss, don't care what you saw, what you say about him before, what you said about him before Saturday, whatever you said about him before Saturday, it's not going to hold water after Saturday, because the guy is electric. I mean, we saw the biggest thing with him to me is the fact that play breaks down. He has nobody open downfield. He is so elusive. I mean, he makes stuff happen just by the way he can move around, the way he can go sideline to sideline, the way he can adjust his arm angle, the way he can make these throws. He's just it's a hard guy to have to game plan for. And when we watch him on Saturday, we understand that he's the real deal. And shout out to whoever found him in that facility. I think Kirby Smart had the same thing that he said in a press conference last week. But whatever scout or whoever, located him and said, hey, I think he'd be good for what we're trying to do down here, and brought him in, hats off to you. A couple things in relation to the game. I feel like we saw, Gunnar Stockton grow up quite a bit in this football game. And after we see the struggles that Carson Beck's had on Friday night, and then we look at what Gunnar Stockton was able to do on Saturday, 26 of 31, 289 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And also added, I think it was like 60 yards on the ground as well. So Stockton accounted for 350 yards of Georgia's 500 yards of total offense, somewhere in that neighborhood. And, we watched Gunnar kind of grow up a little bit in the sense we're watching him grow up every week. But to me, the thing that strikes me about Gunnar Stockton is the fact that I haven't seen a time this year so far where the lights have gotten too bright for him. I think he relishes in the moment, and he loves to, not that he loves playing from behind, but I don't think he panics. And that's a testament to the coaching staff, because Kirby notoriously has been, a coach that will say that and will say, hey, let's not panic. We're not going to panic, And that attitude is reflected directly in his players. And we see it with guys like Gunnar Stockton, the way he is so, stoic, and the way he has just this presence where he's not going to freak out, not going to lose hope. He's going to keep, he's going to put his head down. He's going to go to work. And that's it's a old saying that he's that type of quarterback to bring his lunch pail. He's a lunch pail guy. Excuse me. But he's one of those guys that can really, he changes the game. He's not, like, it's weird. He's not super dynamic. Like, it's not like he runs a 4.3 40 or a 4.4 40 or anything. He just gets it done, man. And I like it. I like watching the hard work ethic in the kid like that. And likewise, I think Ole Miss has got a gem in Trinidad Chambliss as well. And if there's two players I think that we could focus on a little bit with this too, it is Zach Branch. The little step back move that he did on Saturday, that was just disrespectful. Like, that's the kind of move right there that needs to be somebody's got to say, hey man, we can't. We can't be doing that. That's just disrespectful to the other team. But, either way. And then also, Dazon Stribling for Ole Miss. This is another guy, too, that's kind of like that Zach Branch-ish type of player, where you get him the ball in the open field, you need to get him down in a hurry. You need to have him on the ground. Just a very phenomenal athlete. There was one touchdown catch he had. It was on like a simple, is it an in route or drag route? Something. I can't remember exactly what it was now. And was able to take it to the house. And 2 UGA defenders had good angles on him. And he just beat them down the sideline. Like, their angles did not matter. And that's when I saw him and I was like, wow. Like, that dude's fast. Like, very good. As good as advertised, Dazon Stribling. He's just as good as advertised. Lane Kiffin brought him over after, before this season, after last season, via the transfer portal. I think he's coming from Oklahoma State, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong there, but I think it's Oklahoma State. But comes over from there, and just a phenomenal talent. And, very, very interesting to watch catch. Great route runner, great hands, electric speed. But, this game, and I have to make a slight correction. I did say 40-35 a minute ago, I think. Unless I said 43-35, then I'm just correcting stuff that didn't happen. But I'm pretty sure I said 40-35. The final score of this football game was 43-35. Just wanted to make sure we're clear on that. But Georgia going forward, so these teams got a lot, going forward. It's Ole Miss's first conference loss. They're still in the mix of things. Georgia going forward, you've got Florida, Mississippi State, Texas at home, Charlotte, Georgia Tech. So Georgia's final 3 SEC games, Florida, Mississippi State, and then you've got Texas. Don't think you'll have too much of an issue with 2 of those 3. Texas kind of is one of those teams, kind of the outlier. We saw what they did with Oklahoma. We know that Texas is talented, but there's so much Jekyll and Hyde. You just don't know what Texas or what Arch Manning or what defense you're going to get from Texas from week to week. So it's hard to really talk about that one at this moment. Obviously, over the next couple weeks, we will get a better idea of what we need to expect in that football game, and we'll pick it on here as usual on the Thursday show. We will pick that game when it is time for that game. That game's pretty good ways off. But Georgia still, the path is a little bit better. I think the playoff odds for Georgia increased. I think they were at like 70%. I think they're at like 78% now with the win over Ole Miss. So Georgia just got to keep chugging along, and keep the momentum going. And here's another thing to think about too. When you think about this, Georgia team, you think about over the last few years, they play their best football in November. Statistically, over the last few years, even the 2 years where they won the national championship, they statistically played their best football in November. It's still not November yet, and this is a team that still has a lot to figure out and a lot to get better at. And I think Kirby Smart has this football team right where he wants them, where he wants them to think they haven't figured anything out. They're not that good. They got to get better, and he's right. He's got them right there where he wants them. Ole Miss, likewise, still just one loss in the conference, right? Still in the thick of things. Got another. They got a road ahead of them that involves playing Oklahoma on the road, and then playing South Carolina at home, the Citadel, Florida at home, and then Mississippi State on the road in the Egg Bowl. So Ole Miss got a very, favorable road as well here. The biggest test for them is going to be that road contest in Norman against Oklahoma. Past that, I don't think South Carolina gives them much trouble. Citadel's not going to give them any trouble. Florida's not going to give them any trouble. Mississippi State could, but it's the Egg Bowl, and you never know. Toss the records out the window when it comes to that football game, but obviously that's one that is the rivalry weekend matchup, and we will be talking about that one when that week comes around. So the Holy War didn't end exactly how I expected. I expected Utah to win this football game 21-16. BYU ends up winning 24-21. So not too far off of my score prediction of 21-16 Utah. But regardless, BYU, they've won. This is their third straight victory in the Holy War game. Bear Bachmeier and Chase Roberts, that connection is beautiful. We saw it quite a few times. It was a game I really enjoyed watching this football game. Really good game on Saturday night. And but Utah just kept battling. Kept battling. Daniel Bray was a big-time playmaker for the Utes on Saturday night as well. Ryan Davis, I think, also had one or two touchdown catches on the night from Devin Napier. So a lot of premier athletes in this football game. A lot of good football was played. Ultimately, though, what it comes down to, BYU, when we look at this game, we look at the stats. Both teams ran the football very effectively. Utah had, I think, 225, 226 yards. BYU had over 200 as well. Utah outgained BYU. They were better on third down, but they were better running the football. A lot of penalties, 12 penalties for 77 yards. But the biggest kicker is turnovers. Two of them. You had a fumble and you had an interception. And in a game like this, where it's going to be tight and it comes down to 3 points, you can't give the opponent 2 free possessions. You just can't do it. That's what ultimately lost the game for Utah, is the turnovers. I mean, you take away and you negate one of those turnovers, might be a different football game, might be a different looking final score that I'm looking at right now on the monitor. Could be could be different, but who knows? Who knows now? But BYU, ultimately, like I said, Bear Bachmeier, I'm a big fan, really big fan. I'm a big fan of Devin Napier. I think Devin Napier is great for Utah as well, but Bear Bachmeier is an absolute gamer, and you're not gonna take that away from that man. 166 yards, didn't have to throw the ball very, very much, but 13 of 22, somewhat efficient. But BYU just finds ways to get it done. I mean, you look at the way that they've played football up until this point. They've won a game in double overtime. They've had some 3-point contest. They beat, I think they barely got by Colorado 24-21. So they've had these contests where they've had to really dig deep, fight, and win, and it speaks to the volumes of this football team and their coaching staff as to what kind of team they are moving forward. They move forward in the rankings, regardless of what I think about the fact that I think they might be slightly overrated still, because I just don't see anything with BYU that makes me think that they are a 11th ranked team in the country. For them to jump 4 spots, I don't know. I feel like there's a couple teams behind them that are better than them, but obviously it'll all come out. It'll all come out in the wash. It'll all come out, and we will. BYU's got on the schedule moving forward. BYU has got coming down the pipe. Let's see, Texas Tech. That'll be a big time matchup. You got Iowa State on the road. And then you have a bye week. Then you go to Texas Tech. That'll be a game that I've got circled that I will definitely be tuning into. Then you got TCU coming to your house on the 15th of November. You go to Cincinnati on the 22nd of November. And then to finish the season, or the regular season, rather, you've got UCF coming to town. They're in Provo, Utah. So, upset meters. We talked about it on the Thursday prediction show. We talked about who's on upset alert, who should be on the upset meter. I put Missouri at a level 8. Missouri squeaks out a win against Auburn in overtime. And come to find out, Missouri definitely needed to be on the upset meter. Auburn almost had it. I think Hugh Freeze might be gone soon. We'll see. I think that needs to happen. Auburn really does. But Texas Tech, I had on a 6.5 out of 10 on the upset meter. Turns out I probably should have put it a 9 out of 10. But Arizona State gets the win 26-22 over Texas Tech and removes Texas Tech from the ranks of the unbeaten. Texas A&M, ultimately, I didn't feel very threatened with Arkansas in making this pick, but I should have now. After watching the game, seeing the final score, I put Texas A&M at level 4. Probably should have put them a little higher, 6 or 7, because Arkansas had its chances, and Texas A&M comes away with a 45-42 win. But ultimately that was one of those that had me kind of shaking my head a little bit. Like, come on now, like if Texas A&M is good as they say they are, can't be screwing around losing Arkansas. But Oklahoma had on an upset meter of 8, and yeah, that didn't work out very well at all. Oklahoma handled business, and pretty much showed me that my upset meter and my level meter doesn't matter. They took care of business against South Carolina, beat them by multiple scores, so no harm, no foul there. Well, thank y'all once again, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of After the Whistle. It's been great. I hope it's been great for you. It's been great for me, sitting here talking college football, recapping all the action from this past weekend. Once again, we will have the prediction show on Thursday, and like I said, we are doing a rollover on the gift card amount. We're doing a rollover every week. For every week that there is no winner, $5 will be added to the gift card amount. So this week on the prediction show, we'll be doing a $25 gift card for the game of the week that will be announced on Thursday during the prediction show. Until then, y'all have a great week, and I will catch y'all on Thursday. See y'all.